you know that some people don't like free money? Really? Nah. Who doesn't like a little extra money? And that's why in today's video, we're gonna talk about the top 7 side hustles of 2022 where you can make at least 100 dineros a day. Now, depending on who you ask, we are technically, by most conventional measures, in a recession. The GDP numbers came out last week and we've had 2 consecutive quarters of GDP decline, which by most conventional definitions means we are in a recession. Now, it's not all terrible news, all right? Just because we're in a recessionary period and the economy is contracting and businesses are slowing down and they're hiring less and they might start laying off people, okay, that's really not that great, huh? Well, regardless, as long as we recognize it early, we can get ahead of it by learning some skills. And because you follow me for all the daily finance tips on TikTok, Instagram, now as well as on YouTube, I'm gonna show you exactly how with my top 7 side hustles of 2022 to put at least $100 a day in your pocket. Now, I can see some of you on the other side of the screen thinking,
well, I'm in an industry that's insulated from recession, so therefore I don't have to worry.
True. But I think you might like to know that the majority of millionaires have multiple streams of income. So even if it's not out of fear, have this video be a motivating factor for you to pick up additional streams of income. And besides, who wouldn't want to be a millionaire? Exactly. All right, enough with the chit chat. Last point of housekeeping before we get down to tomatoes and potatoes. For all the money that we're gonna make in these side hustles, you need to make sure you're setting some aside to pay taxes. So when we do side hustles, typically we're independent contractors, meaning no one's holding our taxes. Just put some money aside into some sort of account so that you can pay your taxes the next year around. You don't wanna come around realizing that, hey, I've got a massive tax bill due, and no cha-ching cha-ching. As we go through the 7 side hustles, I'm gonna use a rating system known as JFTs. Can you guess where I got them from? I'm gonna rate them on the ease in which it is to start the side hustle, how easy it is to start making money, and thirdly, the growth potential of this side hustle to maybe become a main hustle. Cha-ching! This list is in no particular order, except I did what I had to, saving the best for last. The last side hustle is the one we're gonna get the shmoney honey. So if you really don't want to watch any of them, I guess you could skip to the end, but I implore you, please feel free to stick around to the entire video. I think a lot of what we're gonna say is very valuable to put some extra bread back in your pocket. The first side hustle we're going to be talking about is working in the gig economy as some sort of delivery driver. So I'm looking at anything like a DoorDash, a Grubhub, an Uber Eats, a Postmates, amongst the millions of different types of food delivery apps. I'd say I like these better than driving for Lyft or driving for Uber, largely because if you're in a big city, you can get around on a bike. And so I really like that convenience factor, right? The barrier to entry isn't that high. And for those of you who aren't aware as to what these are, you basically are a delivery driver. You go, you pick up food, and you drop it off to where it's delivered. You make money on the delivery, and then hopefully somebody tips you. Now, there are varying reports on the internet in terms of how much you can make. What I did find was a Reddit user who used DoorDash for, it looks like to be about a week, 35 hours or so, and made over $1,400. That comes to a little bit over $40 an hour. And $40 an hour would translate to an annual salary of $78,000. So as you can kind of see, at least based on this one example, that's pretty insane. However, I will say, I know with a lot of these food delivery type of apps, there's gonna be ebbs and flows. There are gonna be some weeks that are really hot, and there are gonna be others, not so much. And unfortunately, I think you are a little bit at the whim of how much people are willing to tip you. So in order to get started, you're gonna wanna download any of their apps, then just make a profile and go ahead and get yourself verified. Once you're verified, you just flip it on to say, I'm ready to start delivering, and there you have it. So as far as a rating for working in the gig economy as some sort of food delivery person, I would say its ease of start starts at 4 out of 5. I think it's relatively easy to start. I mean, you download an app, you apply, pretty much anyone's gonna get it and you can get going. However, I think to really do what that Redditor did, which was average out to about $40 an hour, you need to have a car. Even though I did say in the beginning, oh, it's great, you know, you could probably do it if you had a bike, I think that is gonna be limited to a couple of cities within the United States. And so the majority of you are going to require a car. Not everyone might have one. There are folks out there that might still be in college. And so that's a reason why I kind of knocked it a point from ease of start. Next up, we have ease of making money. For someone that's in food delivery, I'd say it's easy in the sense that if you get the job, you'll make the money. So I would say 4 out of 5 on that as well. I'm not saying you're gonna make a lot of money, right? This rating is specific to how easy is it to start making money. If you can get the job, you're probably gonna make money. And the third one is growth potential. Is this a business that we could potentially scale out to become a main hustle? Well, I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who do food delivery as pretty much a full-time type of hustle. In fact, as we can look at that previous example, you could do about $78,000 a year if you really hit it top tier week over week. However, it is still really tied to your individual effort. So for that, I would say 3 out of 5 JFTs. Because the rate limiting factor is still your ability to go and deliver food. Overall, this comes to 11 out of 15 JFTs. Next up, we have mystery shopping. This is something I actually did when I was early on in college, and it's really cool. So what mystery shopping is you're getting hired to go to some sort of location, whether it's a retail store, whether it's a restaurant. You are going to pretend and act as if you are a customer. You're going to receive some sort of service, whether it's you're ordering food or you're pretending to buy something. And at the end of it, you write a review. Now, it's actually a lot of fun when you really get into it. Me personally, I did some really fun shops. So for one summer, I ate almost exclusively at Five Guys when I was eating out. So my mystery shops would involve me going to Five Guys. I would order burgers and fries, and then they basically tell you how you should be rating the burger, right? Is it smashed? Is it crispy, but yet juicy on the inside? Which I could never figure out if you're smashing it, how is it juicy, but whatever. And the fries, are they crispy fried on the outside, but kind of like a mashed potato on the inside? And are the bathrooms clean? And so you do all of that, they pay for your meal, and I think I got paid like $10 or something to do the shop, and that would be it. And I would do like 2 or 3 of these a week. I did a lot of Five Guys. Mystery shopping is a ton of fun. If you get really good at it, you can actually end up shopping for like things like designer clothes brands, and you can actually keep some of the items that you buy, which I think is really cool. Some of the shops that I've seen in the area recently are things like getting your oil changed. They'll pay you like 20 or 30 bucks. Go to a cell phone store and pretend like you're a new customer. They'll pay you like 40, 50 bucks. And how mystery shops typically work is there's some sort of job board. So they'll post all the jobs and you can filter based on radius and how much they pay and whether you do it. Or once you get really good, a recruiter will actually reach out to you specifically, because every single time you do a job review, you get a rating, and the better your ratings are or the more consistent you are, they'll reach out to you for kind of the higher paying jobs. So those are kind of the 2 ways that you'd be notified of mystery shops. So how to get started on mystery shopping? It's pretty straightforward. Now, be wary, there's a couple companies out there that's probably a little bit sketchy, but the 2 that I use that I found the best ratings for were Bestmark and IntelliShop. You should consider just applying to both, because that's going to improve your odds of finding a shop A that pays a lot of money and probably one that you actually enjoy. Now, another thing to note is that one of them does ask you for a certification. It's painless. You basically get one from the Mystery Shoppers Association of America. It's a silver certification. I think it's like 25 bucks. You basically pay 25 bucks. I think it basically runs you through like a mini course of what you should do as a mystery shopper, and that's it. Once you've applied though, then everything is fair game. The job board is gonna pull up, and think of it as kind of tiered system. So you're gonna start quote unquote at the very bottom. So you're gonna get a lot of shops that most people are like, I don't know if I love that shop. So a ton of shops that I see are things like going to check out storage units, are going to get an oil changed, things that are like, it's not really all that sexy, but it's a job that needs to get done nonetheless. As you get better and progress, you'll get better and better jobs. So rating for mystery shopping. As far as ease of getting started, I would say it's 3.5 out of 5 JFTs. So with a lot of these mystery shops, you have to have a vehicle in order to get around. Typically, I had a radius of like up to 50 miles from where I lived to try to pull in as many different shops as possible. The second thing is, for one of the shopping services, you are gonna need a certification, which is going to cost $25. So there is a startup cost associated. Though I would argue you'd quickly recoup that cost once you just did 1 or 2 of those shops. As far as ease of making money, I would say this is also 3.5 out of 5 JFTs. Now, when it comes to mystery shopping, the most important thing is you go, observe, and go home and write a report. There are some users that have reported that, man, those reports can take like maybe 20, 30, 40 minutes back at home to write because they're very in detail. After all, a company is hiring you to audit their associates to make sure they're doing a good job, so they're gonna ask you a lot of thorough questions and ask for a lot of detail. If you don't like writing, if that's not something you're into, you're probably not gonna find that part too fun. So I would say it gets a couple dings for that. But as far as the job itself, as long as you're approved to go on either of those job boards, you can go ahead and shop those shops. And as far as growth potential for mystery shopping, I would also give this a 3 out of 5. It's not something that you can really scale per se. It really is dependent on your individual effort. However, it is one that you can balance with other side hustles because you can just elect to be a mystery shopper, have it automatically turned on in your phone or whatever. And let's say you're out and you're like, hey, I wonder if there's any mystery shops around me. You can just take out your phone, look at the app. If there's one, apply, do it, boom, done. But it's not one that you're really going to be able to grow a business around because it's dependent on you. However, maybe I'm gonna give it a 3.5 out of 5 JFTs because I guess technically you could try to outsource it to somebody who would do it for less, but then that gets a little bit finicky and that's probably a gray area. And sometimes they might even have cameras in store to try to verify you are the person that went in. There were some shops I saw for like video games that you had to be over like 18 to buy. So that could be a thing as well. So, but net of it is, let's say 3.5 out of 5 JFTs. Overall, mystery shopping comes in at 11 out of 15 JFTs. Next up, we have flipping items. This one is exactly as the name would describe. You basically go find an item on the internet, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, buy it for cheap, fix it up, sell it for a profit. Now, there are a million different niches that this can go down. The one I see very commonly has to do with like couches and furniture. I also saw a really good write-up on Reddit of someone who got into flipping cell phones. So there's a wide range as to what you can flip. I think it really comes back down to what you're comfortable kind of valuing, and then obviously going and flipping for a profit. To get started, you just need an internet connection in some way to go buy the item that you're gonna then resell. So places like Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace I think are the most common. You can also use eBay as a distribution channel, but again, I think most people are using Craigslist and Facebook. My pro tip would be take a look at the free section on Craigslist. Admittedly, a lot of the furniture in my college apartment was like free. So ratings. As far as ease of start, I'd say this gets a 4 out of 5 JFTs. You just really need one thing, which is a card to go pick up the item, but otherwise it's on the internet and that's entirely free for anyone to go and start taking a look at items. As far as ease of making money, I'd say this is a 3 out of 5. It's gonna require some skill. You can't just jump into it, buying whatever you see and trying to sell it for a profit. You need to kind of have an idea of, okay, well, what is this thing actually worth? How much value can I add and how much profit can I flip it for? And as far as growth, I would say this gets a 4 out of 5 JFTs. This is a business that I could see someone scaling up, right? You start building out teams, you start having people look for items for you. However, it's gonna be a slow crawl. I think the margins are gonna be pretty tight, but it is something I could see you building a team or a business around. 11 out of 15 JFTs. Next up, we have clinical trials. This is a pretty interesting one. So basically it's researchers, PhD scientists who want to run tests and they need test subjects. I know. I got into this in college. It was pretty straightforward. In college, it was mostly going to like our psych labs and they'd have you play video games and they test your reaction and cognitive bias, yada yada, all that great stuff. I realized though, those paid okay, maybe like $20 or $30 per session. But when I left college, I was like, hey, I wanna pick up another side hustle. You can actually do clinical trials in which like, I don't know, you stay at a hospital for like 5 nights and they monitor you and they'll pay you like 2 or 3 grand. Now, I never took it that far, but you could make big money doing clinical trials. The general rule of thumb is the more that you are willing to let them do to your body, the more money you're gonna make. I mean, if you're willing to ingest pills, like actually go for like drug tests, I think those are the ones that pay the highest, but of course, you know, like side effects. Kidding. I think clinical trials are great. So I'm gonna throw up a picture. This is a picture of me at one of the clinical trials I did up here in Boston. I think these guys paid me like $50 to come in for 1 session. They put this cap on me and then I played a video game and I put my hand in the ice cold water and then played the game again and they were testing like reaction time and there's some charts and yeah, I mean, it was pretty harmless, honestly. Most of the ones I've done I thought were kind of cool experiments anyway. I just never had the time to take off from work to go sleep in a hospital for like 5 or 7 nights, but they can pay a lot of money. As far as getting started, just go into Google and punch in clinical trials. Clinicaltrials.gov is one place to look as well, and you can go ahead and filter through in terms of all there is. And once you kind of find a trial that you like, you're gonna have to go ahead and email or message whoever the lead researcher is and just say, hey, I'm interested. And then they ask you a bunch of questions, and if you qualify, you're in. As far as what you can make for clinical trials, it all depends on what your comfort is of what you will let them do to you. If you're just gonna go in, play a couple games, answer a couple questions, it might just be like 20, 30 bucks or so. If you're willing to commit to staying in a lab for 3 or 4 nights, it could be $2,000 or $3,000. So huge range in what you can make. Just how comfortable are you? So ratings for clinical trials. ease of getting started, I would say come in at 3 out of 5 JFTs. The issue here is the fact that you have to apply and get accepted, and there are so many different parameters. Sometimes they want people who are overweight. Sometimes they don't want people who are overweight. Sometimes they want people who are tall, who are short, male versus female. So there's so many different parameters that sometimes you're just even filtering on as to whether or not I could even qualify. And then even if you do fit the initial screening, you might not make the back half screening when they ask you some more qualifying questions. And so it could be a lot of effort even to just find one to participate in. Next up is ease of making money. I'd say this is a 4 out of 5 JFTs because, like I said, if you're willing to ingest medication, if you're willing to stay in a lab, you're going to get paid a lot of money. So it's entirely depending on you in terms of how much you make. As long as you're picked, you will get paid. And next, growth potential. 1 out of 5 JFTs. You know, clinical trials are fun. It's just one of those things that's just not going to scale. They need your body to run in the trial. So that's just, unless you have a duplicate of you or a clone, it's not happening. So that's 1 out of 5 JFTs. Overall, clinical trials come in at 8.5 out of 15 JFTs. Next up, we have turning things into your home into an as-a-service service. So there's pretty cool apps out there, not sponsored by any of them, but I think that are pretty cool. There's one called Neighbor in which you can rent out like storage space. Like if you have a garage, you have a basement, you have a driveway, you can rent it out to a stranger on the internet for money. They say you can make anywhere from $100 to $600 a month, but of course that depends on how much you want to rent it for. There's another service, this one sounds so cool, it's called Swimly. You literally can rent out your pool by the hour to individuals. And I saw a report on CNBC, some guy made over $170,000 in a year just renting out his pool by the hour. Both of these are really cool to me because if you already have the storage space or the pool, that's just money for you when you're not using it. And if you think about it, we're not in our pool 24/7. We're not just parking stuff in our driveway 24/7. So why not get a couple extra coin for that? Now, to get started on the as a service, just go ahead and download the apps. You probably make a profile, they verify you, list it, you're good to go. But when it comes to ratings, this is gonna be a tricky one, right? If you don't have any of these extra spaces or you don't have a pool, then you can't get started on this and therefore this is useless to you. So in that regard, in terms of ease of getting started, 0 out of 5. However, if you have a pool, you have a driveway, you have a garage, you have a basement, you're like, hey, I'm not using it, I'll just rent it out, 5 out of 5. The space is already there. So as far as how much you can make, I would say this is a 4 out of 5. You dictate it. If you have a big driveway, if you have a lot of storage space and you're in a great location, you could probably just crank it up and charge a premium. If your pool has like a water slide and you've got waterfalls and all these things, you could probably charge a premium for it. So I'd say that's a 4 out of 5 JFTs. Now, growth potential. Like I said, if you don't have any of this space and you live in a condo in a city, it's 0 out of 5. You can't do it. However, here's where it gets interesting. What if like someone who had an Airbnb or rentals were, say, obviously renting the home, but maybe some of the excess offerings or amenities they'd be using on one of these apps? How cool would that be? You've basically then doubled or augmented your income on top of a short-term or long-term rental. I think that's interesting. And so this growth potential, I think, is a 5 out of 5 JFTs for the right type of individual. And though for the rest of us, it's probably like a 3 out of 5 JFTs because we probably only have one house with one pool and one driveway. So with this particular side hustle, I think it's hard to evaluate. On the low end, it's 4 out of 5 JFTs. On the high end, it's 14 out of 15 JFTs. And kind of right stab dab in the middle, it's probably 12 out of 15 JFTs. All right, 2 more to go. So this next one is churning bank account bonuses. So have you ever gotten a bank account and they say, hey, sign up and do these things and we'll give you $100 or $200? You're like, and you're thinking, oh man, that was awesome. Well, there's a world in which you can get that bonus from that bank, and another bank, and another bank, and another bank. And heck, there are some banks in which you can get that bonus multiple times. I'm looking at you, M&T Bank. Now, that's no longer the case, but this is what's known as bank account churning. It's an interesting field where every couple months you can make a couple $100s just by moving your money around. The one thing to keep in mind, similar to how when you apply for credit, there's a credit score system, on the checking account side, there's this thing known as the checks system. So don't go insane applying for a bunch of bank accounts because you actually might start getting denied because like, hey, why is this guy opening so many bank accounts? Speaking from experience. Also, you wanna keep in mind some of these bank bonuses will get clawed back if you close your account too too early. So read the terms and conditions. Usually I'd say 6 months to 12 months is safe, but you really want to be clear on what are the terms and conditions on how early you can close that checking account. To get started, pretty simple. I use a site called Doctor of Credit. It's a really cool forum where they list out all the best bank accounts for the month, and you just go ahead and scroll from high to low and you pick the ones you want and you go for it. I would say that probably the one thing you want to keep in mind is what are the requirements to actually getting the money. Sometimes it's as simple as open the bank account, do a direct deposit, get your money. Sometimes it's open the bank account, keep it open for 3 months, make sure every month $1,000 goes in from direct deposit. So you're probably gonna wanna weigh like how much effort is required for me to get the money, but more or less, if you are eligible, you can get the money. So as far as ratings for this side hustle, I would say to get started is 4 out of 5 JFTs. It doesn't really take much. You go online, find a bank bonus you like, apply, all from the comfort of your home. As far as ease of making money, I would say this is a 4 out of 5 JFTs. The effort that's required is click, 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 and keeping track of stuff, but you're not physically having to go anywhere or do anything. You could just kind of do it at your main job. And in third, what is the growth potential of this type of side hustle? I'd say it's probably gonna be 2 out of 5 JFTs. It's dependent on your ability to open up a bunch of checking accounts, and I think there's a rate limiting factor, and so it's not something that I could see scaling out. Now, I think when I went at it heavy, probably in 1 year, I did maybe $4,000 or so in just sign up bonuses, and I'm gonna give you the pro tip here. In fact, there are times when they say you have to do a direct deposit, you can just transfer money from one checking account to another checking account, and it counts as a direct deposit. So you don't have to keep hitting up work and say, hey, can you change my checking account, change my checking account. No. You can just transfer money from one bank to another. It counts as a direct deposit. You get a sign up bonus, rinse and repeat. So as far as how much you can make, on the low end, I probably see $200-300 on the low end. The really good bank account bonuses are maybe $600 or $700. However, it's really proportional to oftentimes how much money you're gonna be direct depositing in or how much you need to have on deposit. Keep that in mind. Also keep in mind of monthly maintenance fees. So bank account bonuses. 10 out of 15 JFTs, the best for last. I know I said this wasn't gonna be ranked in any way, but this one's got a special place in my heart. So my top side hustle for 2022 is social media, creating content. Be a part of the creator economy in some form or fashion. I know saying it on this other side is oh, is it survivorship bias, John, because you make content? Well, yeah. It is. It's because I've done it. If I've done it, I'm gonna say it. Anybody can. Listen, am I a creative person? No, not really. I mean, I went to school, I got a double major in biology and psychology. I then went to pharmacy school. My profession is in tech sales. It's not really much in terms of creative juice. And so if I can be on this side thinking, hey, well, I am making content and it is creative to some extent, you can probably as well. So when it comes to content creation, I'm talking about, can you start a YouTube channel? Can you start TikTok, Instagram, start a blog, get on Twitter, Facebook, whatever you can think of, just get a message out there because we're living in a pretty interesting time. If you even go back 5 years or so, being a YouTuber really wasn't as much of a thing as it is now. To think now that I'm making money on social media is insane. If I go back to January 2021, no social media presence, really none. Started making content on YouTube. Fast forward 6 months, I was maybe at 1,000 subscribers. Started making content on TikTok. Basically, TikTok was June of last year. Fast forward to where we are now, we've got over 2 million followers on TikTok, 620,000 on Instagram, and closing in on 20,000 here on YouTube. We might even be at 20,000 by the time this video goes live. That's insane to me. It's insane to me because holy smokes, what I thought was at least a valuable message is really valuable. And really with social media, the sky is the limit. There are so many different avenues in which you can monetize. One is talking about AdSense, right? Ads from YouTube, ads from TikTok, although not that much, Instagram, Facebook. There is so much ad dollars being thrown out there. The second opportunity is through affiliate income. So can you talk about a product or service? So for me, for example, I have an affiliate model with a lot of the credit cards I talk about. So every time someone gets approved and signs up for a credit card I recommend, I will get a commission based off of that. And the third main source, just again, there's many, but the third main source of income for a lot of creators is working with brands. So brands that come inbound, some of my top partners like Fundrise, like Wealthfront, like Public, Ally. I work with so many different brands, and it's awesome because these are products I use and I believe in, and they'll come in and sponsor a post. So as far as how much you can stand to make on social media, it's gonna sound weird and cliche, but really sky is the limit. There are creators who might have only, let's say, 100,000 followers on TikTok. They could be getting $1,000 or $2,000 a post. And I would say in the finance niche, that scales pretty linearly, up to probably like 3-4 million followers. And from an ad perspective, like for me, I would say I'm averaging close to about anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 or so a month just on ads alone, which again, what? Like social media? So net of it is though, people coming in and almost in a year's time, kind of flip of a dime, changing their whole life trajectory on social media is possible. Now, I'm not saying that that is the norm. For me on YouTube, it has been an absolute grind. It's work day in and day out. I mean, it's been over a year and a half and we went from 0 to close to hopefully over 20,000 by now. But you need to put in dedication to learn how to do it and do it effectively. So as far as how you can get started, I personally think TikTok is probably one of the easier platforms to grow on right now. But at the same time, I've noticed for a lot of creators, the trend is to get onto TikTok, grow, get onto Instagram, convert, and get onto YouTube to really build out a community of audience members that you can connect with and relate with and so forth. So if you guys have any questions on how to start on social media, feel free to drop it in the comment section down below. But let me go back to some of the ratings. So as far as ease of getting started, honestly, this is gonna be a 5 out of 5 JFTs. You have a phone, you might have a camera, you might have a webcam, it doesn't matter. If you wanna start creating content on social media, start recording. If you wanna start a blog, start typing. As far as ease of making money, starting out, it's not easy. This is a 1 out of 5 JFTs. That's when you start out. However, once you start getting a footing, that number quickly becomes a 5 out of 5 JFTs. There are almost limitless monetization avenues. You just have to come across it. But when you first start out, no, it is a 1 out of 5 JFTs. There is very little money at the very beginning. And it could be something that in which you might not get there for a very, very long time. And as far as growth potential, this is like an infinity over 5 JFTs. It really is, sky is the limit. How aggressively do you want to run your social media side business? How good are you at the marketing? How good are you at converting? How good are you pitching brands, negotiating with brands, creating a product to then talk about? It truly is running your own business. And I'm telling you, if you look at some of these larger YouTubers out there, these numbers that they throw out there, being able to pull in 100,000, 200, 500, a million a year. It's mind-blowing, but also possible, which is kind of the scary part to know that it's doable. Let me get off my high horse. So as far as my ratings for social media, I mean, it's very high out of 5 JFTs. Folks, this has been an incredible, incredible video. I appreciate everyone for sticking it to the end because that's where the gold is. I might make another video maybe just talking about growing on social media if you guys think that would be something that's interesting to you. Because after all, even though I talk a lot about credit cards, this is kind of a broad finance channel. So I want to give you ideas to make some extra cha-ching. As always though, I will catch you all next time. Peace.